Today, I'll show you 5 simple but powerful ways to take back your self-respect without saying a word. You tolerated that sharp tone. You let her talk over you in front of others. You explained yourself when you shouldn't have. You gave away your power thinking it was love. This video isn't for men who want to be liked. It's for men who want to be respected. Because once respect is gone, everything else is just fake smiles and forced intimacy. No peace, no pride, no power. Comment: I choose self-respect. Number 1. The silent stare. There's a look a man gives when he's had enough, not in anger, not in desperation, but in a quiet, grounded awareness that says he's seen everything he needs to see, and from this point forward, his energy will not entertain disrespect no matter who delivers it, especially not from the one who once claimed to value him most, yet now tests his limits like he's a disposable option. She can reset at will, and this stare, this deeply uncomfortable, still unrushed moment where a man stops reacting and simply observes, becomes the loudest confrontation without ever raising his voice. Because when he stops dancing around her moods and shifting himself to avoid her attitude, he sends a message louder than any emotional reaction. He says, I will no longer reward this behavior with attention. I will no longer trade my dignity for a spot in your life. I will no longer shrink to keep this peace that only exists when I obey your shifting standards. And this stare is more than eye contact. It's the beginning of reclaiming himself. It's the moment he withdraws the approval she never earned and pauses long enough for her to recognize that something in him has changed, something irreversible, something final, because respect, once lost and tolerated, becomes the breeding ground for quiet resentment, and the longer a man tolerates it, the more he begins to resent himself for being silent, for watching his boundaries erode in exchange for temporary affection that feels less like love and more like manipulation. And when a man finally gives that silent stare, he's not being passive. He's letting his presence speak, letting his stillness expose the imbalance in the dynamic. Because the truth is, women don't stop respecting men because they become weaker overnight. It happens slowly, each time he laughs off an insult meant to belittle him, each time he explains himself to someone who isn't listening, each time he tries to fix a problem that was created just to watch him jump. And over time, she stops seeing the man and starts seeing the puppet. And the silent stare breaks that image, because now she sees something unfamiliar. He's no longer seeking permission to feel disrespected. He's no longer negotiating the value of his standards. He's no longer pretending this is love. He sees the pattern now, the subtle control, the passive digs, the shifting tones, the false smiles when others are around, and the coldness when they're alone. And for the first time, he chooses to let her sit in that awareness without him rushing in to fix the discomfort. Because that stare isn't about punishment, it's about clarity. It's him saying, I see you for who you've become in this relationship, and I see me for who I've become by tolerating it. And this moment becomes the turning point where he no longer tolerates gaslighting disguised as communication, where he no longer accepts being mocked and then told he's too sensitive, where he no longer responds to affection that's used as currency to control his silence. And what she sees in that stare is not anger, not hate, but indifference, the most painful reaction to someone used to controlling the room, because now she's not the center of his focus. Now he's grounded in himself, calm, unaffected, watching, measuring, and that silence, that non-reaction, removes the fuel from her behavior, and without fuel, it dies. And this moment will either trigger her to self-correct or reveal her true self more clearly, and either way, he wins, because the goal isn't to make her change, it's to return to himself, to regain the respect he gave away piece by piece each time he swallowed his truth, to avoid being called difficult, each time he compromised his values to keep the relationship alive, not realizing that every compromise done in fear was cutting off another piece of his authenticity, and now, finally, he is done cutting, done bending, done shrinking, and this stare communicates all of that without a word. It is a silent declaration that the games are over, the tests are seen, and the standards are back, and that if she wants access to him, real access, emotional, physical, mental, it will require something she hasn't been giving: respect, consistency, humility, and if she can't give that, then she will simply be allowed to exit, because the days of tolerating mood swings disguised as personality, of allowing tone and sarcasm to replace real communication, of tiptoeing around reactions to maintain a peace built on control. Those days are over, and this new version of him doesn't announce his boundaries in anger. He enforces them in silence, and this silence is not confusion, it's intention, it's self-respect. It's the moment where he walks back into the center of his own life and stops asking others to validate it. And for any man listening who's been disrespected subtly, repeatedly, painfully, you know this stare. You've felt the need to say something but couldn't find the words, and I'm telling you, stop searching. Just look. Just hold the moment. Just let her feel the weight of the behavior she's normalized. And when she sees that you see it, everything shifts. Because now the game has rules. Now there's a line. And now she has to decide if she's capable of rising to your level or exiting your life. And both are acceptable because you've finally chosen you. Not the illusion of peace, not the emotional crumbs, not the conditional affection. You've chosen your dignity, your clarity, your power. And when that becomes your standard, you stop begging for respect and start attracting only what aligns with your worth. Not through persuasion, but through the power of one look that says everything and more. Because when a man reaches that level of self-respect, when his silence speaks louder than every argument he used to have, that's when he's finally ready to lead his life with clarity and strength. That's exactly why we created the Stoic Relationship Blueprint, a powerful guide built on timeless principles that will reshape the way you see yourself, your relationships, and your peace. And it's now available in audiobook form, so you can absorb every transformative truth while walking, driving, lifting, or simply clearing your mind. This isn't just a book, it's your compass. The link is in the comments. Don't wait for another heartbreak, another lost year, another wake-up call. You already know it's time. Number 2, use silence as an answer. There comes a point where a man has to stop explaining himself to people who only listen to argue, who only hear what serves them, who twist his words, flip his intent, and play games with his emotions just to feel powerful in the moment. And this point arrives when he realizes that every word he speaks in defense of his character to someone who constantly disrespects it is just another drop of fuel on a fire that shouldn't even exist. And that's when silence becomes not just a response, but a decision, a permanent shift in how he chooses to engage with those who mock his peace. And this especially matters in relationships where the disrespect is masked by sarcasm, jokes that aren't funny, accusations that come without evidence, and moods that change faster than explanations can keep up. And men often think they have to fix it, that it's their job to repair every miscommunication, to patch every tear, to stay and explain over and over why they didn't deserve the disrespect thrown at them. But what they don't realize is that by staying and explaining, they're actually rewarding the behavior. They're validating it by treating it like something worth dignifying. And this is where most relationships break men, not through violence, not through open humiliation, but through death by 1,000 subtle cuts. Each one dismissed as, "You're overreacting," each wound met with denial, each boundary met with attitude, until he no longer knows whether he's in a partnership or in emotional custody. And this is where silence becomes the sword that separates manipulation from reality, because when she throws a passive-aggressive line and you simply don't respond, She is forced to sit with her own tone, her own intentions, her own words, and it's in that moment of silence that her tactics are exposed, because they don't land the way they used to. They don't get the rise, the flinch, the emotional reaction she was fishing for. And this isn't about being cold, it's about being clear. Because when you stop reacting to every attack, you take away the game, and when the game ends, so does her control over your emotional state. And the man who learns this no longer speaks to be understood. He acts to be respected, and that begins with choosing where his energy goes. Because not every comment needs a comeback, not every insult needs a counter, not every accusation needs a defense. Sometimes the most powerful thing a man can do is pause, look, and say absolutely nothing. And in that pause, she realizes that her emotional weapons no longer work, that you're not who you were last month, last year, or even yesterday. And the man who embraces silence no longer fears distance. He no longer fears being misunderstood, because he understands that truth doesn't need to shout. It only needs to stand still. And when she realizes she can no longer provoke you into arguments you didn't start, she either changes or reveals she never intended to respect you to begin with. And either way, your silence gives you the answer, because too many men stay trapped in conversations where the goal is not connection, but control, where every word they say is used against them later, where their calm is called avoidance and their reaction is called aggression. And you cannot win in a relationship where the rules change every time she loses control. So stop trying to win. Just stop playing, because silence is not running away. It's standing still while the noise burns itself out. And if she respects you, she will notice, she will reflect, she will adjust. And if she doesn't, she will escalate. And that's your confirmation to walk, not argue, not lecture, not prove a point, but walk. And when she asks why you're distant, you won't owe her anything, because the disrespect already said what needed to be said. You just chose to listen in silence instead of screaming it back. And that is what makes your silence powerful. It's not avoidance, it's awareness. It's knowing that your energy is too valuable to be drained in battles you didn't start and have no interest in winning. And this goes beyond women. This is about life, because every man watching this has a limited reserve of time, attention, and emotional bandwidth. And if you spend it defending yourself to people who disrespect you, you'll have nothing left for the goals that matter, the vision that keeps you alive, the discipline that keeps you grounded, and the peace that gives you clarity. And this is where silence becomes the daily practice of the man who knows his path, who sees through the noise, who walks into rooms and doesn't feel the need to dominate them because he already owns his decisions. And the man who owns his decisions doesn't flinch when tested. He doesn't panic when misunderstood, because he knows. That silence is not the absence of response, it is the presence of control. And that presence is felt, especially by those who used to feed off your reactions, especially by those who once knew exactly what to say to make you question yourself, to make you prove yourself, to make you beg for peace. And when those tactics stop working, the entire dynamic shifts. And it's uncomfortable at first, because you're used to explaining, to fixing, to earning back moments of affection with long conversations and emotional acrobatics. But the moment you stop, the moment you decide your peace is not up for negotiation, everything changes. And yes, you may lose people, you may even lose her, but what you gain is a version of you that no longer needs to be liked to be valuable, a version of you that no longer needs approval to feel worthy. And that is the version of you that builds the life you were meant to live. Not a life of arguing, not a life of apologizing for who you are, but a life of direction, clarity, purpose, and peace. And that life starts the moment you stop talking to those who don't hear you and start walking toward the discipline of silence, the clarity of presence, and the strength that doesn't come from how loud you can speak, but from how little you need to. Number 3, set a clear boundary. A man without boundaries is not free, he's a tool waiting to be used. And most men don't even realize it's happening because the disrespect doesn't start with an explosion, it starts with small things. She cancels last minute. She makes fun of your goals. She interrupts when you're speaking. She throws attitude instead of words, and you let it slide because you don't want to be seen as too serious or too emotional or too difficult to deal with. But every time you let it go, you're teaching her that your comfort is negotiable, your values are flexible, and your dignity is on a leash that she can tug whenever her mood shifts. And slowly you find yourself in a relationship where you can't speak freely, can't make a decision without conflict, and you think keeping quiet is maintaining peace. But in truth, it's maintaining her control, and that's where men lose themselves, not in grand betrayals, but in the slow erosion of self-respect that comes from not drawing the line when it mattered, because you're afraid she'll leave if you do. But here's the truth. Most don't want to face. If your relationship requires you to abandon your boundaries to keep her, then you don't have a relationship, you have a performance, and eventually you'll wake up resenting the character you've been playing just to keep her attention, and that resentment turns into self-loathing, because deep down, you know you're living below your standard, not because you can't do better, but because you never demanded better, and demanding doesn't mean yelling or arguing. It means looking her dead in the eye when she crosses that line and saying, with no anger and no fear, "I don't allow this," and then walking away if it happens again, not with a dramatic exit, not with threats, but with calm finality. And yes, it's hard because you've been taught to compromise everything to keep a woman happy, but what's the price of that happiness when it comes at the cost of your own clarity, your own goals, your own self-image? And setting a boundary doesn't mean punishing her, it means protecting you. It means defining the terms of your presence. It means saying, this is what I tolerate and this is what I don't. And if that doesn't work for you, that's okay. But I won't bend just to keep things from falling apart. And this scares most men because we're taught that if we enforce boundaries, we'll be alone. But the truth is, if she leaves because you set one boundary, then she was never with you. She was with what you gave her. And the moment that changes, she's gone. Not because you failed, but because you finally showed up. And it's better to be alone with your values intact than to be with someone who only stays when she can get her way. Because real connection doesn't require your silence. It requires your strength, your clarity, your ability to say no with your chest. And too many men think boundaries are optional when in fact they're everything, because the moment you allow a pattern to repeat is the moment it becomes your responsibility, not hers. And if you find yourself constantly explaining the same thing, constantly asking for the same respect, constantly feeling like your needs are an inconvenience, then you don't have boundaries. You have hope, and hope doesn't protect you, only standards do. And those standards must be non-negotiable, because once a woman sees you hesitate, once she sees you blink, once she sees you tolerate what you said you wouldn't, she will never see your words the same way again. And from that point forward, your promises are just noise, your expectations are just suggestions, and your presence is just familiar, not respected, not valued, just tolerated. And you can't build love on tolerance, not real love, because real love respects the rules, not because it's forced to, but because it chooses to. And if she truly values you, she will rise to the level of your boundary, not immediately, not perfectly, but consistently. And if she doesn't, then you've got your answer, not because she's evil, not because she's broken, but because she's just not meant to stay. And you have to be strong enough to accept that without hating her, without hating yourself, just accepting the truth that not everyone who comes into your life is meant to stay, and not everyone who wants your time deserves it, and not everyone who makes you feel wanted actually respects you. And the only way to separate the ones who do from the ones who don't is to set the line and see who adjusts. And setting that line is scary because it means you might lose her. But the reality is, if you don't set it, you will lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, in moments where you said yes when you wanted to say no, in times when you laughed to avoid conflict, in situations where you apologized for things you didn't do just to keep things smooth. And over time, you start to disappear. And then one day, you look in the mirror and realize you don't even recognize the man looking back. And that's not love. That's abandonment. And not by her, but by you. And so today, you draw the line. Not with anger, not with a need to control, but with deep love for yourself, with deep respect for your time, and with full acceptance of the consequences, because the only way to know who respects you is to give them something they can't cross. And once you do, everything becomes clear. Who's really there for you? Who's just using you? And most importantly, whether or not you respect yourself enough to follow through. Because words mean nothing without action, and your boundaries are only as strong as your willingness to enforce them, even when it's hard, even when it's lonely, especially when it costs you something, because that cost is the price of peace. And peace is only possible when you stop trying to control what stays and start protecting what's sacred, your self-respect, your focus, your purpose. And the man who guards these things is a man who can't be manipulated, because his boundaries are not threats, they are facts, not conditions, but codes, and they don't require understanding, just observation. And the moment someone violates them, he doesn't explain, he doesn't negotiate, he doesn't escalate, he just exits, because the boundary was already clear, and now so is he. Number 4. Walk away without explaining. There comes a point in every man's life where he realizes that staying is more damaging than leaving, and trying to fix something that's clearly broken is no longer noble. It's self-destruction dressed as loyalty. And when a man has given chance after chance, listened to every apology, endured every shift in tone, survived every silent treatment and emotional power play, eventually he wakes up and sees the truth. This isn't love, it's a cage with flowers tied to it. And what's worse is the guilt he feels about even thinking of leaving, because he's been conditioned to believe that leaving without an explanation makes him the villain, the one who gave up, the one who abandoned the relationship. But what they never taught him is that when the respect is gone, the relationship already ended. It's just that he was the last to realize it, and now that he sees it, every second he stays is a lie, a performance he can't afford anymore because it's costing him more than peace. It's costing him his identity, and walking away without explaining isn't about being cruel. It's about being clear. Clear that your energy is no longer for sale, your presence is not a reward for disrespect, and your love will not be held hostage by guilt. And this is where the power lies, not in shouting, not in begging to be heard, but in calmly removing yourself when the pattern repeats itself again and again, because explanations become meaningless when the actions don't change. And how many times does a man have to repeat himself before he realizes the silence of her behavior is louder than any apology? And that's when he learns. He doesn't have to prove anything anymore. He doesn't have to justify his exit to someone who dismissed his feelings, disrespected his vision, and doubted his worth. Because if she really cared, he wouldn't be in a position to even consider leaving. And the truth most won't say is that women don't respect a man who explains too much, who pleads to be seen, who breaks himself down into digestible parts just to avoid upsetting her. Because when you do that, you're not loving her, you're fearing her, and love born out of fear is just submission in disguise, and men have been taught to believe that silence in the face of disrespect is patience. But real patience has limits, and when those limits are crossed repeatedly, the right thing to do is not to explain harder, it's to exit faster, and when you do it with calm and composure, without the need to prove a point or deliver a final lecture, she feels it deeper than any word you could have spoken, Because what shocks her isn't your exit, it's your peace. And that peace tells her everything she refused to hear before. And now you're gone. Not with a bang, but with clarity. And it's that clarity that begins your healing. Because staying with someone who doesn't value you is like bleeding slowly. It doesn't kill you at once, but it robs you of your strength, your drive, your passion, your fire. And before long, you're just a shell of the man you used to be, always tired, always second-guessing, always hoping she'll come around. And that hope keeps you stuck in a cycle where nothing changes, because she doesn't have to change. As long as you stay, she wins, because your presence is her permission. And once you realize that, everything becomes simple. Not easy, but simple. And when you walk away, not because you're angry, but because you're done, not because you want to hurt her, but because you refuse to hurt yourself anymore, that's when you reclaim your life. And the people who truly love you will never make you explain your boundaries. They will feel them, they will honor them, and if she doesn't, then her presence in your life was always conditional, always performance-based, always about what she could extract, not what she could build. And you have to be okay with that, because the man who is scared to be alone will always stay in places where he's disrespected, and the man who values his peace more than her approval will never hesitate to leave when the line is crossed. And that's not heartless, that's growth, because real growth is not just becoming strong, it's removing yourself from the people who make you weak. And sometimes that means walking away with no announcement, no closure, no final text, because if she didn't respect you when you were there, she doesn't deserve a speech when you leave. And if she wants to understand why you walked, she can reflect on her actions, not your exit, because the actions created the distance long before you created the space. And you walking away isn't revenge, it's healing, and healing doesn't require a witness, it requires decision. And that decision will hurt at first because you're still human, you still cared, you still hoped it would be different. But the difference doesn't come from begging, it comes from walking. And the moment you take that first step away from what drains you, you'll feel it. Your power coming back, your clarity sharpening, your drive returning. And suddenly, you remember who you are. And that man doesn't need to explain why he left. He knows, and knowing is enough. Number 5, let actions speak for you. There's a point where every man must stop talking, stop negotiating, stop begging for understanding, and finally realize that no one will ever respect a message that only lives in his mouth. And for far too long, men have believed that the way to earn back control, appreciation, love, or validation is through explanation. Explaining their past, explaining their mistakes, explaining their intentions, and the more they talk, the more invisible they become. Because the people who already stopped respecting them aren't looking for truth, they're looking for dominance, and you don't reverse that dynamic with words. You reverse it with movement, because when you say less and do more, when you fall silent and begin to build quietly, when you stop telling her you're about to change and instead become the change she didn't believe was possible, that's when everything shifts. Not because you're trying to prove something, but because you're done wasting your breath on people who never listened. And this shift is not loud, it's not emotional, it's not dramatic, it's steady, consistent, boring even, because it's not about revenge, it's about rebirth. And in that rebirth, you stop broadcasting your intentions and start living them. And she feels the difference. She sees the distance. Not because you're punishing her, but because your focus is no longer on proving your worth to someone who questioned it in the first place. And this is where everything changes. Not because she suddenly respects you, but because you finally respect yourself enough to make her approval irrelevant, and the man who lives like that becomes unshakable. Not because he wins arguments, but because he doesn't show up to them. Not because he silences others, but because his presence silences the room. And every man watching this knows what it feels like to be in a situation where your words mean nothing, where every time you try to explain yourself, it gets turned around, minimized, mocked, where your efforts are invisible until they disappear. And that's your proof. It was never your words that mattered, it was always your alignment. And once you align your energy, your habits, your schedule, your tone, your silence, you stop being negotiable. And women notice that, not because you announce it, but because your behavior creates new rules without needing to be written. And those rules are simple. You do not chase. You do not repeat yourself. You do not try to convince anyone of your worth. And when she crosses the line, you do not shout. You do not break down. You simply pull back, redirect, and keep building. And that silence, that shift in attention, that refusal to argue, hits harder than any words ever could, because it shows her she's no longer in control of your focus. And once she loses your focus, she either recalibrates or reveals who she truly is. But either way, you win, because the man who leads with action no longer needs to be chosen. He chooses himself every day, through what he does, through how he lives, through the standards he no longer explains. And when you become that man, you stop needing closure, stop needing apologies, stop needing her to understand what she did wrong, because now it doesn't matter. Now you're building something she can't take from you. Your discipline, your clarity, your physical health, your spiritual grounding, your mission. And the stronger those things get, the quieter you become, not because you're cold, but because you've evolved past trying to be heard by people who preferred the sound of their own disrespect. And this doesn't just apply to relationships. It applies to everything, because the world doesn't respect men who talk. It respects men who do, who build, who disappear for 6 months and come back unrecognizable, not for revenge, not for attention, but because they finally realized that the most powerful apology they'll ever make is to themselves, and that apology is silent, paid in sweat, time, and solitude. And if you're watching this right now, ask yourself, what would happen if I stopped explaining my goals, my boundaries, my values, and just started living them without apology, without compromise, without broadcast? And the answer is simple. Everything would change, because your actions would become the truth no one could deny. And in that truth you become free, not because people suddenly treat you better, but because you no longer need them to. And that's when you start moving different, talking less, watching more, keeping your peace sacred, and letting the version of you that kept trying to be understood die quietly, so the version of you that commands respect without speaking can rise in silence. And once he rises, nothing will ever be the same again. They don't want you to find this. Society would rather you stay silent, broken, endlessly apologizing for having standards, chasing love that disrespects you, wasting years you'll never get back. But if you're still here, you already know deep down, you're done with that life. The Stoic relationship blueprint is the guide they never wanted you to hold. It's filled with timeless truths that will rewire how you see yourself and every relationship around you. Crafted for men who are ready to stop explaining and start leading. And now, it's even easier to absorb this life-changing knowledge. The audiobook version is out now, so you can walk, train, work, and sharpen your mind all at once. The link is in the comments. Comment, I choose clarity. If you're ready to claim your copy, then like this video and subscribe to help more men escape the trap before it's too late.